Avinash, what do you think? I mean, the kind of cues that we've got globally and from within India as well. Where do you really see the opening happening today? Do you see the positive momentum continuing yet again?
Good morning. I think the markets would possibly consolidate at these levels. After a very strong rally yesterday, my sense is I think more action would be stock specific. We are into earnings season, so obviously that would be more relevant. But I think on the overall market, I would not be surprised that till the time we approach the monsoon session, I think clearly the momentum would be positive. I think thereafter it's going to be clearly what kind of developments happen on the parliament floor, and clearly with the monsoon now taking a backseat, I think there are some concerns that for a week or 10 days, if monsoon does not catch the momentum, already food inflation has moved up. So I think the market is already pricing in a 25 basis cut in the August policy. So I would say that it would be little cautious to take a stock specific call, but on the broad market, I think one should be little careful.
And what would you say, about what we've been witnessing since last 2 days in a row? Frontline indices not really moving in tandem with what's happening with the broader markets. We're seeing a lot of activity out there. So what's your sense? Do you think even there, it's, these specific factors which are going to dominate, like earnings, and our monsoon session of Parliament is going to start? So again, it will be very stock specific and not overall thing that we are going to see going forward?
No, I think stock specific activity would be more relevant. I think yesterday after the markets we saw the results of South India Bank. So obviously today you could see a deep cut on the stock. I think similarly, I think we've not seen the larger PSU banks reporting numbers. So I think that would be a very important kind of development for the markets. The private sector banks have started off. I think some negative surprises and some positive surprises. But the PSU banks, if they obviously don't deliver as per the numbers and asset quality issues become little more, deeper and troublesome, I think probably, that would be more stock specific rather than the market, because clearly we have seen on the ground credit growth has been very slow. I think on the ground economic activity is still yet to pick up. So I would say that key sectors like real estate, construction, capital goods, PSU banks, these would be key triggers for the markets for any sort of big re-rating. The fact is that FIs have also started putting in a good amount of money in the Indian markets is a positive sign, but how long it would be sustained? Because yesterday we clearly saw Janet Yellen saying that probably by the end of the year a rate hike is definitely coming. So to that extent it reduces the possibility of a rate cut from for the domestic markets.
And how would you view the oil and gas space in particular? There's a lot of activity happening on that front as well. Yesterday, IOC has cut the fuel prices. The new deal also now we'll be getting, more on that front as well. President Obama was also speaking about it yesterday. So what's your sense on where are they headed and how do you really look at them today?
No, I think oil marketing companies would definitely benefit from a good secular kind of rally, clearly because I think oil prices are not going to go up in a hurry, and more importantly with the Iran US nuclear deal, I think probably from the second half of FY16 you will see a lot of Iran oil hitting the international markets. So clearly a good sign for most of the oil marketing companies like HPCL, BPCL, IOC. I think clearly it's going to mean cheaper petrol and diesel prices for the consumers, and obviously more good amount of profitability for these oil marketing majors.
And what's your view on, the companies like ONGC and all? Because while on one hand we are saying it will be good for India and for all these oil marketing companies specifically, the fall in crude and all, but it will be quite challenging for E&P segment and E&P companies as well. So how do you view names like ONGC, Oil India and others?
I think as far as Oil India and ONGC is concerned, there could be, not much incremental impact because of the fall in crude prices. In fact, the real beneficiaries would be oil marketing companies, as I mentioned earlier. ONGC would definitely also suffer from an overhang because the government is looking at some sort of an FPO at some point of time. So obviously, there could be some sort of supply pressures on ONGC. I think in terms of the subsidy element, I think the Q1 may not have any subsidy element, but I think going forward, whether that $60 kind of limit works favorably for ONGC looks, markets would watch it very carefully.
Avinash, what we have picked up from the ministry, both finance and petroleum, is that, earlier when we were talking about that $60 a barrel is going to be the benchmark that they are going to consider. But what we are now hearing is that for LPG, the government will bear the entire subsidy, so companies don't really have to bother about it. For kerosene, what they've now decided is that 12 rupees, or 8 rupees or 12 rupees is the number that the government will be wearing. Above all of that, it will be the companies who will be, sharing that. Now that $60 benchmark thing is out of the picture now. Now that's not what we are picking up. That's out of the place now. Now it's the other formula that they'll be, working around with. What do you have to say about it then?
No, I would still be a little cautious on ONGC and Oil India. I think clearly, from a market perspective, I think we have seen very strong numbers come out from both HPCL and BPCL. And I think if the crude prices continue to soften, and with the international global prices now looking at a much lower price considering the Iran deal, I would be more comfortable currently on the oil marketing pack, despite the fact that there's a strong outperformance seen here. Clearly, in terms of visibility and in terms of profitability margins, ONGC and Oil India would take a backseat.
Avinash, pre-open session is underway. It's 9 a.m. 3 points down for Nifty.